Welcome into Body and Soul right here on 938 Live. I'm Daniel Martin. Thank you so much for joining us in today's edition. We're talking about how many people are seeking out medical help and medical options when it comes to aesthetics for desired beauty. Are more and more Singaporeans really turning to medical aesthetics for desired beauty? Well, yes, there has been an increase. If you look at some of the stats in terms of numbers since 2007 or 2008, let's say, more and more people are looking for medical options. Well, what's motivating the average person to seek out such enhancement here? How are Singaporeans reacting to this trend, and what are the important questions that you should be asking so that you don't get taken in by so-called over-promising, let's put it that way? My guest on the program is Dr. Yuen. He's based at Atlas Medical Laser and Aesthetics Clinic at Ngee City. If you have any questions, I know around this period, the festive season especially, people might be seeking out such options for themselves to feel better, to look better. There's a lot of visiting going on, obviously. If you have questions and you've always wondered whether it's a safe thing or whether you've been told something in the past and you're not quite sure whether or not you can believe that this outcome is possible, give us a call and join us at 669-11938, 669-11938. That's our studio hotline. Dr. Yuen, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
A pleasure to have you here. I think so many people, especially this period, especially this period, are seeking out such options. You're visiting, you're seeing people.
That's right.
I know some people might seek it out for job issues as well. People who are dealing with customers or dealing with lots of people, insurance and whatnot. So let's talk a little bit about many of the causes that lead men and women to seek out consults for this kind of issues. What are the most common issues that you faced?
Sure. I think in our local population, in my own practice, I think most people tend to come when they realize that they're not looking as great as before. They don't look terrible. I don't think there are a lot of people who are very unpleased with how they look in terms of features. Of course, there's a small group of people who think that they want a sharper nose or bigger eyes or a sharper chin. So that is the cosmetic part of so-called aesthetics. But a lot of people tend to take the first move to see a medical doctor when they realize that their skin is turning a bit haywire.
Okay.
And as we age, especially among ladies, I think the commonest problem, especially in our climate, in our country, is pigmentation issues. All right, that shows up and it's very obvious. They find that it's getting harder and harder to conceal with makeup and concealer, and they take notice, and the people around them start to point out to them, hey, there's something wrong. There are patches coming out on your face. Do you think you want to do something about it? I think that's one very common problem that I see. And something else that's a little bit less obvious is the gradual process of aging. All of us age. There is no prevention of zero aging. It's not possible. So, and when people realize that they are not looking as youthful as before, and again, they may find it out themselves or people point out to them, they think that, they probably find that it's a time to kind of seek medical options.
I always say it's not about reversing aging, it's about aging gracefully.
Yes, about aging gracefully. And I think what motivates them more and more nowadays is because it's becoming quite acceptable. There's no longer a stigma associated with seeing a doctor. And people realize that actually seeing a medical doctor also does not mean that you come out looking very fake or plastic. There are a lot of options, a lot of techniques available nowadays that can make you look younger, in a very graceful manner, and that motivates them because I think they want to look younger, look better, look refreshed, look prettier or more handsome, but they don't want to look artificial.
Of course. We do know that, especially in Singapore and particularly in Asia, non-invasive procedures are far more preferred.
Yes, far more preferred.
Rather than invasive options. It's just not in our
It's not in our system and culture to do that, to have something so dramatic done, because people tend to talk, why did she have to do this? It's not necessary. She looked good, for so many years. But something that's non-invasive and something that's reversible, temporary in terms of features, or something that helps you to alleviate your skin concerns, to make you look better, or in a way make you do not distract the people that you're trying to talk to or meet, like you mentioned, maybe in the course of work. You want them to focus on the product that you're trying to tell them about, rather than be distracted by what you have on your face.
I think people are looking at this as a way of dealing with problem areas rather than a vanity project in some cases.
So there's a very fine balance. I would say, at least in my practice, the vanity part of it is there, but it tends not to be the first priority.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about that issue of seeking a medical opinion for this, because we know in the past, I've heard lots of people will seek out spas or beauty or treatment options and try and deal with things, but when you're dealing with pigmentation issues or blemishes or skin tags or anything like that. Are these medical issues that sometimes maybe could point to something else, and that's why it's worth seeing a doctor even more so for it?
Not very likely. It's very unlikely that the pigmentation or skin tags are indicator of something more sinister in your body. It is quite rare, but I think more importantly, people seek it because they do not want it to get worse. And the fact is, if you let it sit there for more years and it gets worse, it becomes harder and harder to treat. It's better always to nip it in the bud. Alright, if something that's been around for a couple of weeks versus something that's been around for a couple of years, I think the treatment that's very much different.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about some of the common areas that people that you've met in Singapore are seeking out. What kind of treatment options? You mentioned pigmentation.
Yep,
that's one of the first things that bring people in. I also think that it's usually, like you said, somebody else will point it out, and then you realize you won't come in because you realize it. Sometimes other people are telling you about it.
Correct.
What are the problem areas that Singaporeans want to treat, men and women?
I think the commonest complaint is I'm starting to look older, and usually we look older because of a few things that happen to our skin. Fine lines, wrinkles, it starts to sag, the color looks dull. And I think those are very obvious things. So when you compare a photograph between now and 5 years ago, it becomes very apparent, and I think this makes them sit up and take notice. So this is another common set of problems. We just call it aging or aged looking skin, which is a combination of wrinkles, fine lines, dull skin color, and sagging. And these problems can be addressed quite nicely with non-invasive procedures. Of course, they are not going to make you 10 years younger in a month, alright, but with the investment of time and a bit of diligence, you see your doctor regularly, there's a very good chance that maybe 1 year from now you would not have aged by a year, or you may age lesser, or you look better even than maybe 1 year before.
I know many people want to look healthier and want to look fresher as well. We'll find out more about such procedures. And one of the questions you might ask, I mean, if you hear about things like guaranteed success, can you actually believe that? Dr. Yuen will be commenting on that and more just ahead on Body and Soul.
938 Live. 938 Live gets you talking.
And now, our Myth Tamer will bust radio advertising myths. Myth 1, only drivers listen to radio.
False! MediaCorp Radio reaches almost 3.5 million listeners daily.
Myths 2 and 3, radio doesn't engage like TV, and it's all about the music.
Incorrect! It's also about news, sports, and advertising.
Advertise on MediaCorp radio stations from just $550 for 30 spots. Call MediaCorp Advertising Inquiries Hotline at 633-9888 now.
938 Live gets you talking. 938 Live. It takes more than just an apple a day to keep the doctor away. Shape up with Body and Soul. 938 Live.
What are the questions you should be asking if you're seeking out a medical approach to deal with some of your appearance aspects or aesthetic conditions, blemishes, trying to feel and look better and younger? In many cases, we know it's less about vanity for most people and more about feeling and looking healthier as well. Dr. S.M. Yuen is from Atlas Medical Laser and Aesthetics Clinic located at Ngee Ann City. 669-11938 if you have any calls. We're going to go to Mr. Kumar, who's called through right now. Mr. Kumar, hello.
Hi, good morning.
You're on
good morning,
the air.
Doctor.
Go ahead, sir. What's your question?
Hi, I've been diagnosed with melasma.
Okay.
I have 3 questions to you.
Yep.
One is, what are the procedures to take up for treating this melasma?
Uh-huh.
Number 2, is it completely curable, or can it be the blemish? I mean, the kind of dark spots on my cheeks, will it be removed? Number 3, how much does it cost in Singapore?
Okay, the average cost. Thank you, Mr. Kumar. How long ago were you diagnosed with this, Mr. Kumar, just to clarify?
Last week, actually.
Just last week? Okay, well, I'm glad that this show came on, and hopefully we can give you some of the answers that you need. Dr. Yuen, procedures-wise, how do we deal with it? Does traditionally melasma, does someone have to go to a dermatologist to deal with it?
Okay, firstly, maybe let's talk a little bit about melasma. Melasma is a very interesting condition. It tends to afflict ladies more than men, maybe about in the ratio of 90 to 10. Maybe 10 to 20% are men. I think what we do know about melasma is we don't know very much about it. We know that it exists, we know that it's a problem, but we don't know exactly what causes it. We know it's a combination of aging, hormones, and sunlight, and your genes. Alright, but we don't really know what is the root cause. But what we do know is that it's a pigmentation condition that will tend to worsen with age if you don't do anything about it. Up to now, there are many options available for treatment. I tend to divide them to topical, that means things that you apply on the skin, and treatments, that means things that you do to your skin. In terms of topical treatments, there are just a few prescription products that you can use.
These are not OTC, yeah?
They're not over-counter, so there's no way you can get it from the pharmacy. You need to see a doctor, and you need to properly diagnose. You have to be supervised when you're applying such products, these creams, because they are strong. There are potential long-term side effects. They contain a bit of steroids. So these are what you can do at home to try to keep the melasma in check. Alright, but most of the time, such creams can only lighten maybe very superficial portions of melasma. If you look at it in terms of pigmentation, there are the superficial layers and the deep layers. So the superficial part of melasma tends to improve quite well with topical products. The problems are the deep parts. The topical products don't go very deep anyway, so we have to think of way of using energy-related devices to try to break up pigmentation. And largely, it falls in the realm of lasers, intense pulse light devices, and maybe the older school of thought would like to use chemical peels. But chemical peels, I tend not to be very favorable to use it, because there are long-term side effects. So yeah, there are definitely treatment options available.
But is it curable, his second point?
I do not think it's really curable, but there's definitely ways to control the melasma so it does not worsen. In my experience, it's one of my favorite, it's one of my areas of interest. I find that the difficulty is getting the melasma to respond to your treatment. It's very strange. You can hit it with laser treatment for months on end, it does not respond. One day it just decides to just switch off and go to sleep, and you find that the improvement becomes very, very quick, and then it stabilizes, for some time. Some people do get a little bit of relapse, maybe a couple of years down the road, but it's never usually very bad as long as you're still under some form of follow-up. The problem is when you neglect it. You forget about it. You think that, I'm cured, it looks great now, there's nothing to worry. You go to the sun, you don't take care about it. And then one day you may just come back with a vengeance.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when it goes away, so to speak, which
Yes.
it can sometimes.
It can sometimes go, yes.
It would almost be clear skin.
Almost clear, 80-90% clear. I usually don't tell my patients that be 100% clearance, because the fact is, melasma, we don't know a lot about it, and I usually summarize the treatment of melasma in one word: that's unpredictable. Alright, but the fact is, even though it's unpredictable, I'm always very inclined to try, because I think everybody deserves a chance. You just can't say, there's no cure, there's nothing
just
you
live
can
with
do.
it.
Just live with it. I don't think that's very fair, and I think as doctors, we should, the onus is on us to bring the patient to our practice and walk with them on this journey to get it improved. I mean, they need a chance.
So a combination of topical prescribed options
and some form of
laser therapies, which could take months, weeks?
Months to months, and in some cases even years. And also depends on the patient's expectations. Some patients are just very happy with 50% lightening,
Sure.
as long as it doesn't look so distracting, but some people want to push all the way for clearance, and I think it's about managing one's expectations as well.
Okay, and in terms of average cost, because it can vary so often.
It can vary. So if you probably realize the average cost will depend on how fast your pigmentation responds to treatment. If you respond fast, you can get it done maybe within 6 months. That will cost you anything, maybe $2,000-$3,000. That depends on how many sessions you're doing, and then it will escalate if you need repeated sessions. Of course, the difficulty comes when, let's say, we are treating it for 6 to 9 months, and you find that it's not responding. So what do you do? Do you stop? Do you give up, or do you continue? So I'm a kind of person. I have this determination in me. I don't like to give up. There's no such thing as giving up.
As long as the skin can take it, as long as the healthy person can take it.
As long as, and to be fair, there is some cost involved. As long as the patient feels that he or she can continue to accept this course of treatment, I think we'll go ahead.
Mr. Kumar, thank you so much for your question. I hope that points you in the right direction in dealing with your melasma. If you have any other questions, give us a ring, 669-11938. Dr. S.M. is based at Atlas Medical Laser and Aesthetics Clinic. They're located at Ngee Ann City. Body and Soul continues.
938 Live. 938 Live. Gets you talking.
Dr. Yuen, I think a lot of people, when they walk into a clinic to see someone, you want to get rid of it immediately.
You want fast.
It's like, deal with this, get rid of it. No need to tell me how, no need to tell me, just tell me how much and get rid of it now.
Yes.
I think the problem with that is sometimes people or patients or potential patients might not have an accurate idea of what to expect. Expectation is very important.
That's correct.
How do patients best go about educating yourself, first of all?
Okay, I think the best way is to speak to a medical doctor, somebody who has got interest and expertise in whatever areas they would like to do. And I think the best thing a patient or patient-to-be can help themselves is, I always tell my patients and my friends, refrain from surfing the internet too much.
Yeah.
There is a lot of information down there, posted and shared by people that we don't know who they are. Right, they will make comments, or they make suggestions, or they make promises and guarantees that are sometimes unfounded. Right, so that's one. And I think, like you mentioned, when people have this unrealistic expectation. It's also got to do with our culture, our lifestyle. Because every day we wake up, we read the newspapers, we pick up a magazine, we see very glitzy advertisements, we see big ads talking about how you can reduce your waistline maybe by 10 centimeters in one session, instant result. We see celebrities before, after endorsing products and services. And I think some subconsciously readers and people have the impression that, hey, actually these things are very treatable.
Overnight.
Yeah. Because if the newspapers, the advertisements say so, then if let's say a spa or salon or beauty establishment can do this for me in 1 or 2 sessions, by right, if I see a doctor, it should be even faster, right? Because they are medically trained. But that cannot be further away from the truth. It's the exact opposite. Some things can be dealt with very quickly. All right, 1 or 2 sessions you get rid of it. Maybe things like freckles, you can remove it in 1 or 2 sessions. But things like melasma, like just now our listener mentioned, it is very difficult to treat it in 1 or 2 sessions. Or even things like simple things like being slightly overweight, you're a little bit of a spare tire on your tummy.
Yes.
How do you drop 2 sizes in one treatment? I'm always very puzzled. It's like you walk in and you walk out in 1 hour and then you lose 2 sizes.
Yeah.
That means by right, that establishment or that office should sell you clothes too. Because you probably can't go home with your pants or your clothes, you see.
Exactly.
So, but people, I think it helps if listeners have a better perspective. When we read an advertisement or we read a write-up, take it with a little bit of balance. There must be, there cannot be something that is so good.
I mean, even in a hospital setting, in a full-on hospital setting, there is never a 100% guarantee.
There is never, and I think it's somewhat even a little bit irresponsible or misrepresenting to say that I can guarantee you a success. I think even, regardless whether it's medical aesthetics, anything to do with medicine, be it high blood pressure, diabetes, or a cancer, or you have a growth, you broke a leg, there's no 100% guarantee. There's even no guarantee that you go into operating theatre, you come out alive, and that's a fact, and that's why you sign a consent form, informed consent about the risk of anesthesia, cardiac failure, stroke, everything is real, you see. And so there's no way a medical establishment can promise somebody an instant success. But it is a problem because people read it every day. Everywhere they're being promised instant success. When they sign up a package, they're told, no, trust me, you get it done in 5 sessions, or in 1 month you'll be looking 10 years younger. And then people fall for it. They spend money and they realize, hey, this is not what I signed up for.
It's worked for all my other patients as well, or worked for you, that kind of thing.
So you get a little bit distracted. So I think we take a step back, we try to be very objective about it. We have a problem, we realize that we want to treat this problem, be it pigmentation or wrinkles or fine lines or simple things like you want a sharper nose. And we zoom in there, we look for somebody, a doctor, a clinic that has got area of interest or expertise in that area, and we go in there, have a chat, talk about all the various options, the good, bad and the ugly, and make sure you are well informed. Ask all the questions that you want, like, is it really so good? Can it fail? I think the question to always ask, can it fail? Of course it can fail. Alright, there's no way that anybody can guarantee a definite cure or definite improvement in your condition. That's really unrealistic.
And you definitely don't have to rush into any decisions as well. Just because it's your first consultation doesn't mean it's the point in time when you have to say, okay, book it now, let's go and do it now.
You may not be ready, you may want to think about it, you may want to seek a second opinion, right? But the opinion that you seek is important. Alright, so you have to meet the right person or the right group of people that put you in, that helps you to put you on the right journey, because once you start on the wrong step, and I always get very I get a little bit upset when people start on the wrong foot. They go in there thinking that, oh wow, it's going to be settled in 1 month's time, but because somebody told me it's going to be settled in 1 month's time, and then when someone tells them no, actually it's not going to be done in 1 month's time, then they get very upset.
True.
But sometimes the truth hurts, we have to learn to accept it and to take things at a much deeper level rather than just looking at everything superficially.
Let's talk about some of the problems that can occur if decisions are made too quickly. I understand that you said before that, sometimes even in a doctor's situation, there might be solutions or preparations that might have long-term consequences, but you don't realize that. Let's talk about those kind of prescribed options first.
Okay. Long-term complications, generally in medical aesthetics, is very, very rare. Especially when we talk in terms of non-invasive, and if we follow the Ministry of Health guidelines, which are very clearly defined, List A and List B. List A are procedures that are backed by medical science, reasonably safe, with good results. List B are things that are a little bit controversial. We don't know the science, whether it's good or bad, we don't know long-term effects. So, by and large, we stick within List A procedures, which are things like topical prescriptions, IPL, lasers, radiofrequency ultrasound. It's generally very safe. They are very unlikely to run into major problems. Common things that may happen if we are too aggressive That means it's a doctor-patient relationship. So if you push your doctor too much, I want it fast, and the doctor falls into that trap, so to speak. And okay, I need to give you fast because if not, you'll be a very displeased patient. He tends to be impatient, and impatience always hurts you. That means you tweak your laser setting high. You rush through, you start your first laser session when your skin is not well primed for treatment, or you start to mix procedures because you want a quick result.
Right.
And the skin punishes you. Alright, so you get scar, you get burns, you get pigmentation changes that you don't want to see. You see, so I think that's the most important thing that we have to be aware of, is never to rush.
I've met many doctors like you who say that a lot of their patients. They're working with a lot of patients because it might be botched complications from someone else or from somewhere else.
There is always this possibility, and sometimes when I always divide my brain into two halves. When it's a botched complication, was that a cosmetic, a vanity problem, or was it a dermatological or skin problem? So if it's a botched nose job, well, it's different. It's cosmetic. If it's a botched treatment, let's say for pigmentation, then it's different. It's more organic, right? Because cosmesis is dead, so to speak. I mean, if you put a filler for the nose, it's not alive. It has no life of its own. It will just degenerate with time. But if it's a pigmentation problem or acne or scarring, it's organic, right? It's a living thing. So the approach is very, very, very different.
Yep. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about what do you think would be the areas that we can get the best results from as well. That's coming up in the final segment of Body and Soul in just a moment. Stay with us on 938 Live, and my guest, Dr. Yuen, will continue.
938 Live.
Send off the golden dragon and welcome the dancing golden snake. King Coil wishes everyone great prosperity, fortune, and luck in the year of the snake. May all your endeavors come true.
Hello everyone, I'm King Coil's Executive Director Jenny Ko. On behalf of King Coil, I wish everyone an endless stream of good luck and fortune. Let's welcome the year of the snake with happiness and laughter.
With more and more risks in job markets and the world economy, isn't it time to ask, how do I grow my money? Learn from top financial experts as they share knowledge to help you understand current market trends and create a smart financial roadmap. Where next for Key Global Markets? A seminar on unlocking future opportunities. Happening on 2nd March at the Singapore Marriott Hotel. Book your tickets now to enjoy special rates. For more details, log on to channelnewsasia.com/seminar.
938 Live. 938 Live gets you talking.
And now, the LTA traffic news.
Or the very latest on our roads is heavy traffic on the CTE towards SLE between Cairnhill Circle entrance and Moe Main Road exit. Also, if you are going to use the AYE or are already on the AYE, look out for a vehicle stall there in the direction of Tuas. This is after Jurong Pier Road exit in lane 3.
938 Live gets you talking. It takes more than just an apple a day to keep the doctor away. Shape up with Body and Soul. 938
Live. Welcome back to the final segment of Body and Soul on 938 Live. My guest is Dr. Yuen. We've been hearing from him quite a bit about some great advice that you need to take to heart if you're seeking out medical aesthetics for different outcomes, whether it's dealing with a problem area or whether it's about feeling and looking better and feeling like how you're feeling on the inside, healthy and younger, maybe. We're finding out more about the questions you should be asking and the awareness that you need to have when you walk in terms of expectations. Dr. Yuen, let's talk a little bit about the idea of some of the best case scenarios. I mean, obviously people know we know one of the more difficult situations to deal with, and we have to put in more knowledge and more research into that and awareness building. What are some of the well-known procedures that perhaps we know that we can get good results? You mentioned, for example, dealing with freckles can be quite straightforward.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Superficial pigmentation like freckles that we discussed just now, is removing it is very easy, but there's just one thing that we have to be careful. After you remove the pigmentation, the skin that heals, there's a tendency for it to repigment with new pigmentation. So
darker sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes darker. So that's something that we should not miss. So after removing the pigmentation, you need to have a proper follow-up program over a couple of weeks, maybe 2 to 3 months. Make sure you see your doctor regularly. We can do some laser toning sessions. We can make sure you're on the prescription creams so that the pigment does not repigment over that short period of time.
Follow-up is so important.
It's so important. So I always tell my patients, removing something, cutting something, destroying something is very easy, but healing it is very, very difficult. So that's one example. Another common procedures that we do that have very reproducible results, and you can see some difference. Very simple things like what we call rejuvenation. So that means you walk in with a very basic expectation. You just want a clearer skin, you want a bit of radiance, you want pore tightening. If you're a lady, you want to be in a situation where you apply makeup, it sits better. If you're a guy, you just want to look a little bit refreshed, not after something dramatic. So that's laser rejuvenation. So we can use lasers. Some people use IPLs. Some people do very superficial chemical peels. So those kind of things, if you have that expectation, just to look like yourself, but like you mentioned, a fresher version of yourself, that's very easily done.
Right. And do these have to be like a one-time thing, or are they usually about follow-up and maintenance as well?
Okay, so because they are non-invasive, because they are gentle, they're slow to act. So generally you need a short course, maybe 4 or 5 sessions. They have no downtime, there's no pain, you don't bleed, you don't bruise, and then 1 or 2 months you should start to look a little bit different. But it is not going to be dramatic. It's not a facelift.
No.
Alright, and it's not a laser resurfacing program. You're not going to have a sharper nose and bigger eyes. You're just going to be like yourself. You just look a little bit younger. People will comment, hey, you're looking good nowadays. And I think there's a psychology of it. Psychological medicine is very important.
Yeah.
So when you feel that you've done something, and somehow,
who knows, it might motivate you to live a healthier life.
You dress differently, you change a bit of hairstyle,
you eat better.
Yeah, you walk differently, you have more poise, you have more confidence, and it rubs off everything that you do. So this is something that's very easily reproducible.
So Yuen, I think you're right. It's all about expectations.
Yes, all about expectations.
That's where we'll leave it right now. Dr. SM Yuen is medical director at Atlas Medical. They're based at the Ngee City area. Check it out. And that does it for today's edition of Body and Soul right here on 938 Live.